Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is January 31st, and right now we are looking at the infrared satellite imagery. Frontal system continues to push through the Pacific Northwest. Mountain snows, lower elevation rain, and you can see the boundary of that cold air spilling out across the Gulf of Alaska. Look at the winds coming off here. Arctic air spilling out across southeast Alaska, reinforcing this shot of cold air. This will be moving in tonight, tomorrow morning. We're going to have a surface low that drops down the coastline, and we'll be spreading moisture back across the region as we go through the next few days into early next week. Multiple rounds of snowfall potential here across the area. The caveat here is that not everybody is going to get a lot of accumulating snowfall, but some areas have the potential to get some very heavy snowfall west of the Cascades into the lower elevations. And places like Portland, Willamette Valley, their chances are probably going to get better as we go through the early portion of next week. And initially, southwest BC and some of northwest Washington, the Washington coast is really going to be under the gun. And then we do the tricky thing of having a low spinning off the coastline when we're starting to draw some cold Arctic air back down into areas west of the Cascades. So very tricky forecast coming up here. Now, if you haven't already, go ahead and click subscribe. We're getting close to 100,000 subscribers. I had YouTube email me some kind of recognition for getting towards 100,000 subscribers. So yeah, we're getting close there. Again, can't do it without you guys. Thanks to all my subscribing members that have been helping me through the last 3 years with this channel. It's grown bigger than I ever imagined it would. Now, taking a look at the visible satellite imagery, you can see, again, the frontal system rolling through here. It's been pretty blustery along the Oregon coast this morning. That's going to move up across some of the Puget Sound. Strong westerlies down the Strait of Juan de Fuca as we go through tonight as well. Strong winds for the east slopes of the Cascades will be incoming also, and some blustery, gusty winds for places east of the mountains. Take a look at that here in a moment. But you can see the cold air marching down here on the visible satellite imagery. I have lightning overlaid, I believe I do, and I don't see any strikes just yet, but we do have that potential as this very cold air aloft moves over the area, especially as we go through the day Saturday and Sunday. Now, taking a look here, Seattle National Weather Service. Of course, we got winter storm warnings for the Cascades, Washington, Oregon, but look at this. We got some of the eastern portions of Snohomish, King, Pierce counties are under this winter storm watch. Covington, Enumclaw, some other cities just off to the east of Everett and small towns are under the gun here. Bellingham is included in this winter storm watch. So is the San Juan Islands. And yes, you heard that right. The Washington coastline, especially when you get away from the water, some big time snow potential here along the southwest slopes and the west slopes of the Olympic Mountains here. And I'll go over some of that detail here in a moment. Now, if we take a look at Oregon, winter storm warnings up and down the Cascades, coastal ranges included in that. If I click on the coastal range here, you'll see this warning pop up, and we'll take a look up to 4 inches there. So yeah, on in through 10 p.m. Saturday, with more to come as we go on into the following portion of the weekend and on in through early next week. And they also mentioned the snow levels dropping down towards 500 feet by late Saturday morning. So Willamette Valley probably getting some snow showers, probably going to be difficult to stick, at least initially, as we go through Saturday and Sunday down towards the lower valley locations. So if we take a look here, again, easterly winds coming for eastern Washington, some gusty south winds here for Spokane, some crosswind there across I-90. Good graphic there from the National Weather Service Spokane. Also talking about that wintry mix here across some of the basin and I-90. There's Spokane there, but once you get across the higher terrain, big snowfall amounts. Lookout Pass, foot and a half. Stevens Pass up towards 2 feet here. This is just through Saturday. Now, the Arctic air is going to be hung up across Pacific Northwest. We also have an atmospheric river that'll be moving across California into Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. Some exceptional snowfall amounts could be occurring with this, with Pacific moisture overrunning a very cold air mass across the region here. And I'll show you that here on the latest weather models as well. If we take a look down towards Medford, got the winter storm warning for the higher terrain initially, but eventually this is going to include places, like the Klamath Range here, the Cascades of California, Oregon, and then this will bring a lot of moisture off east of the mountains there as well. But initially, look at Crater Lake, foot and a half, 18 to 24 inches. And Pendleton, I'll show you in the weather models here, there's going to be multiple rounds of snowfall, but first things first, heavy snow tonight through Saturday afternoon, Cascades, especially above 3,000 feet. Friday through Saturday afternoon, northern Blue Mountains above 4,000 feet and some hefty snowfall amounts rolling in. So let's back this up. And again, I mentioned it was blustery here along the Oregon coast this morning. Getting kind of a break on that as we go through the day today. But we start to bring some gusty winds through the Willamette Valley, the Puget Sound. I think there's some gust potential up over 40 for Seattle, Tacoma, Olympia. Then a strong westerly surge will roll down as we go through tonight, slamming into Whidbey Island. You can see Port Angeles is right there, and Sequim could be included in some of that. Some strong westerly northwest northwesterly surge coming down the Strait of Georgia. Convergent zone activity is going to be kicking up tonight with that cold air aloft moving in. You're probably going to see the initial snowflakes here across the convergent zone areas as we go through tonight, mixing in. And the chances for accumulating snowfall will increase as we go through the weekend. Now, taking a look here, this is something I show quite often. This is 500 millibar geopotential height. So this kind of shows where the coldest air is in the upper levels of our atmosphere, precisely 18,000 feet. So this is this morning's run, hot off the presses, versus yesterday afternoon's. And you can see this is what we were looking at last night in the live stream. And again, the European's pretty locked in here with the position of this polar lobe as we go through Monday. You can see there's not much change coming up here, and this is pivoting pretty close. Look at that 522 line getting very close to western Washington here. And depending on who you listen to, you can get snow when you start getting below 528, 525, 522. The air aloft is cold enough throughout the layers of the atmosphere where it easily drags the snow level down towards the surface. So again, the Europeans kind of locked in here and we're ready to go. This polar lobe is on its way, but still just tiny changes in the track will have big implications on who gets what and how much. So remembering this 500 millibar height, so this is what we're looking at. This is the 500 millibar constant pressure surface. The lower the heights, cooler, the more dense the air, the more convergence, the more clouds, the more precipitation you get. And you can imagine this being the ridge, warmer, less dense. So when I show you that polar lobe, this is what it would look like if you're looking at it in a cross section. So hopefully that makes some sense. Now look at this Quileute Airport. This is the temperature cross section, 10,000 feet versus the surface. We're dropping below freezing, even all the way out towards the Washington coast. You can see kind of the diurnal cycle here with some chilly overnight lows coming in here. But again, this depends on how much cloud cover we have and other things. And we might stay chilly through the extended forecast as well. But look at this cold air aloft just arrive as we go on in through tonight and through Saturday morning. I wish I could show you the cross section. In fact, I may be able to do that. In fact, let me just back up towards yesterday afternoon. Is this going to show us what we want to see? It is not, but you can kind of see it backed up there a little bit. Let's do the 18Z, and you can kind of see it. So that's the arrival of the cold air, and the very cold air aloft, and you can see how things really cool down at the surface. That's for Quileute. Look at Seattle-Tacoma. You can kind of see the diurnal versus nocturnal cycle here. Plenty of time below freezing as we go through this upcoming week, and the European wants to keep us pretty chilly as we go through the extended lots of cold air aloft, as you can see. Vancouver, BC, same thing here. Look at all the time you're spending below freezing. Very little time. In fact, none once you go through Sunday morning. It drops below freezing and kind of stays there for southwest BC with big time snowfall amount potential here as we go on in through this weekend and early next week. Now, looking at the European, this is not the artificial intelligence, but this is 850 millibars, 5,000 feet. This shows you the temperature anomaly. And you saw this on the infrared satellite imagery and the visible. This is that cold air marching its way down. Let me update that because it does not seem to be loaded quite yet. This European is hot off the presses. But you can see this cold air's arrival as we go through tonight. That's when the convergent zone activity will be kicking up. Arctic air is still on the move, sagging south. You can see the Arctic air spilling off the continent, wrapping back around, and taking somewhat of a short track. And that's why the air aloft is so cold. It's spilling off of this Arctic air mass, picking up some moisture in the Pacific Ocean and dumping it back across portions of BC, Washington, Oregon, and up into the mountain ranges as we go on in through the day Saturday. And then we start to go on into Sunday morning right there. You can see how the air aloft is actually getting colder, continues this track that is a snowmaking machine here for some of the mountains. The Olympics, the coastal range has a big snowfall potential as well, and of course the Cascades. And you see that Arctic air mass sagging south across British Columbia closer and closer as we go through Monday morning right there. Look at the surface low. That's going to be co-located with the surface low there. We're looking at 850 millibars, but the surface low will be somewhere similar. And then we start to leak out some of that cold air as we go through Sunday night and Monday. And look at this upper level low just kind of spinning off our coastline with that Arctic air right there. How far of this retrograde, how much moisture will it be spreading back up over the area? Big time questions we have to ask. There's going to be a lot of nowcast scenarios going on as we go on in through next week. I mean, look at this. We're all the way out through Wednesday night into Thursday morning, and this bugger is still there. It's right up the coastline. It's still going to be trying to bring moisture. What an incredibly difficult forecast as we go through next week. And then the European wants to keep us cool and bring down another wave. That would be another significant snowfall maker if this morning's European is on to anything. And you can see we remain kind of chilly there as we go on into the extended forecast. So the models have kind of been waffling back and forth on that cool pattern and maybe going back to a normal pattern as we go through the extended, but I'm getting a bit ahead of myself there. First things first, North American model, surface base cape, lots of cold air aloft. You can imagine as we go through the day tomorrow, we destabilize the atmosphere fairly well. Some places, especially north of Seattle, southwest BC, I would not be surprised to hear a clap of thunder with some of the snowfall going on across the area. We go on into Sunday, something similar, as we're fairly well destabilized here across much of the Pacific Northwest, Cascades West. Now, the Storm Prediction Center is picking up on this for today. They usually don't do that great of a job here with some of our convergent zone activity and some of our unstable patterns here across Pacific Northwest because they don't have it for day 2 right now. If I was them, I would probably have some kind of broad brush for general convection there, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal. But it's pretty cool when you can see thunder snow. It's a pretty rare feat. I've only seen it 5 or 6 times in my life here in the Pacific Northwest. Now, looking at 850 millibars, look at the North American model. The line you want to get to is -6C. That has the potential to bring the snow level down towards the surface. So cold air arrives as we go through tonight. So the convergent zone right here, you can kind of see how we drop below -6Z. You're going to see some snowflakes mixing in there and maybe some brief accumulations down to the surface. But look as we go through midnight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's 6 a.m. right about there. Plenty cold enough for snow to be getting down towards the surface here. But there's going to be hit and miss showers. And once those showers get away from your location, especially during the daytime, you're likely to go back above freezing. So kind of a slushy mess. But then as we go back into Saturday night, into Sunday, then of course we're going to be renewing that threat of a heavy accumulating snowfall, especially across southwest BC, and we'll continue to watch to see who's going to be under the gun there. Now, if I scroll out, you can see the very cold air aloft, very close to the Washington coast. Big time snowmaking potential here along the west slopes of the Olympic Mountains, very close to that upper level low as well. So if we take a look at this composite reflectivity, you can see rain for the lowlands as we go through the day today, but watch as we go through tonight. Let's see if I was correct. There it goes. You can see the snow starting to show up there in the convergent zone, and that is about, 9 o'clock tonight. Areas up towards Everett, north of Seattle, Arlington. You can see that coming out across the Puget Sound, and then you can see the showers turn to snow as we go through Saturday afternoon. Multiple rounds of snow showers moving in here. You can see it absolutely just plastering portions of the Olympics out there and into the Cascades, southwest BC as you go through Saturday night into Sunday. Look at just the persistent bands of snow coming across the region here. Yeah, very difficult forecast because we have at the lower levels still some onshore flows. So it's going to be marginal for a lot of locations, but up across southwest BC is probably going to start to stick by the time you get to Saturday night into Sunday. And so the Hoh rainforest is going to be known for the next few days as the Hoh snow forest here. A little joke I made this morning. Now taking a look at 2-meter temperatures, just kind of showing you how it's going to be marginal as we go through the day Saturday. You can see some of these temperatures just above freezing. And we go through the afternoon hours, things warm up a bit, but then we quickly drop back down as we go on into Sunday morning. And yeah, very close with some of these temperatures here. We really got to watch for some accumulating snowfall as we go through Sunday morning, even down across western Washington and maybe down in towards southwest Washington and western Oregon as well. Again, kind of a nowcast situation with a lot of this activity. Now, taking a closer look, so we want to see what time the Fraser River outflow starts. So there goes the big westerly surge. That is coming tonight for Whidbey Island out of the west. Southerlies at the surface as we go through the day Saturday and then through Sunday as well. And you notice it starts to get squirrely here as we go through the day Sunday, and there goes the Fraser River outflow. That Arctic air starts to flow back into the region, and you can see these southerlies mixing in with that. Strong convergence here, possible heavy snow anywhere this band were to set up, and still some of this moisture will be overriding the lower levels of this cold air. So yeah, very dynamic situation coming in here. And then another big feature here is you'll start to see the winds start to switch down out of the north across some of the Puget Sound as we go through Monday afternoon. Northerly stretch down here. That is when the temperatures would really drop off as we go on in through Monday night into Tuesday morning. Northerly flow here. You'll be looking at some accumulating snowfall potential and possible disruptive snowfall for some of the Puget Sound at this point. So you see the wind flowing down out of the northeast and all the way out towards the coastal areas there. Now, taking a look at accumulated positive snow depth change in inches, you want to be careful that you're not looking at 10-to-1 snow ratios, especially with these type of events, or even the Kuchera ratio is likely to be off. But you see the snow piling up as we go through tonight, and then you see that convergent zone activity starting to getting a little bit of snowfall down towards the surface there. I mean, it even shows some Tacoma, Olympia, maybe just south of Seattle, some of that accumulating southwest BC. You see that little blotch of gray up here there, and then you see as we go through the day Saturday, look at some of these totals start to creep up. I mean, 1.8 inches is a big deal once you get away from the water a little bit there. Maybe Shelton, Highway 12 back and forth, the Olympic Mountains piling it up, west slopes of the Olympic Mountains as well. And then as we go on in through Sunday, look at the snow piling up across southwest BC there. And you can see some areas, you know, Snohomish, Skagit, Whatcom County, Tacoma, Olympia, again, getting that snowfall potential. I mean, it's showing over 2 inches by this point as we get towards Monday morning for some of the Seattle metro. But you got to be careful. You can see how some people are being left out here. Some of the Kitsap Peninsula getting hit hard. Northern portions not showing as much right now. But that's probably going to be changing back and forth. And there's no guarantees on anyone seeing any certain amount of snowfall here, as you can imagine. But look at that. By the time we get towards Wednesday, it's showing 3.8 for Seattle, 4 for Tacoma. There's some pretty good amounts there for Olympia as well. Huge amounts along some of the coastal areas. And look at Vancouver, BC, up over 9, 10. You go inland a little bit, you could be looking at up over a foot. And again, some of these totals here as you get east of Lake Washington and whatnot and into the foothills are big amounts. This is over half a foot. 9 inches of snowfall potentially there, according to the European. And you'll notice as we scroll in through next week a little bit, some of the Willamette Valley's getting snow, some big amounts across the coastal range as well. So this is what you don't want to look at, though, 10-to-1 snow ratio, because you just take that and people are like, oh, we're going to get a foot of snow in Seattle, which that's unlikely to happen. And you can see some huge amounts showing up there. This is just basically taking precipitation amounts when the air is considered to be freezing, and then it kind of parses that out. So it'd be about an inch of precipitation showing 12 inches of snowfall, or close to it, maybe 10 inches. Now, another thing going on here is that this is the artificial intelligence. This model has been showing something interesting with the upper level O spinning. We went over that in some detail here. Look at this atmospheric river just absolutely interacting with this Arctic air mass. It sagged south across Oregon as we go through Monday night into Tuesday. Some ridiculous snowfall amounts potentially with that. Upper level O is still here, and then it wants to bring in this warmer Pacific storm, spreading moisture back up across into that Arctic air mass into place. That could be a very significant storm as we go on in towards next week. Getting a little bit ahead of ourselves here, but there is some significant snow potential as we go on in towards next week. If we look at the GFS, let's put this into motion. We've been watching the European. You can see the convergent zone is going by the time we get towards Friday night and Saturday. Surface low is right there, spreading precipitation here. Who is going to get what? Man, what a nightmare forecast this is. You see this upper level low just spinning precipitation, and by the time you get towards Monday, it's likely to be cold enough for snow for many areas. Tuesday as well. And then the GFS has this system going south right there. How far would that spread snow back up north into this cold air mass? Good question. That's likely to change several times. It does bring some snow as we go through the end of the week up towards Seattle. Are we going to stay cold after that? Are there going to be another additional systems out of the northwest after that as well? Who knows? Now, looking at the European, the 12Z. So, again, the convergence on activity, surface low, yada, 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 snowfall potential with that, atmospheric river, big time snow, upper level low is with us all the way out through Thursday. There goes that system. The European is weaker and further south with that one there. That would come into portions of Oregon. So there is snowfall potential with that. We'll see how that goes. But then it wants to drop this one down. That's another significant snowfall maker, especially for Vancouver Island, portions of western Washington. We'll have to see how that unravels here. So still things to work out in the extended. Now, take a look at the North American model, a bit of a shorter term model here. And yesterday it showed a pretty substantial polar lobe here dropping right down across the area. A little bit different this morning, but still quite cold and much more in line with what the global models are saying. That's why I kind of ignore the North American model when you're looking out 60 plus hours. It did come more in line with the global models, but still very close with that polar lobe right off our coastline. And again, going over this one more time, 500 millibar constant pressure surface, where I just showed you lower heights, cooler, more dense, clouds, snow, rain, versus ridge, warmer, less dense here. This is a cross section. So 6 to 10 day, look at this. We are in the 90th to 100th percentile for being below normal as we go through February 5th through 9th on the Climate Prediction Center page there. If I can scroll down a little bit more, I would, but you have to take my word for it. You can kind of see the purples emerging there at the bottom. And here's the 6 to 10 day precipitation, kind of a mixed bag. 8 to 14 day as well. They got us below average here as we go through February 13th. And there's that near normal there and some above average across the West Coast. Also, the drought monitor, a new one was released. Look at this, drought removal likely here across portions of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. And you can see just some moderate drought across some of the Cascades, abnormally dry, just because of that dry streak we just went through. But that'll be easy to take care of. No big deal there. Still some more substantial drought across portions of Idaho and Montana. But anyway, I'm going to do another video here today at least, or I may do a live stream. I'll decide here in a little bit, and then I'll let you know on social media, and I'll leave it on the communities tab here for the page as well. But anyway, what else? Click like and subscribe. Again, we're getting close to 100,000 subscribers. A lot of active weather coming in here. Got to check back daily. Do not take forecasts that you hear today and try to extrapolate them out towards Monday. Got to be checking back, because as soon as you put out a forecast, it starts to change. So anyway, hope you guys are having a good day. I will talk to you again at some point again today, and I will see you then.